Again, we see we're going to solve percent problems, but this particular section, we're going to use proportions in doing so. And a lot of you that come from a technical or an agriculture or a technology background like to have an equation, plug things in, and we go. Well, this is now your time. So we have, using proportions, we have an amount over a base equals, and this is a percent number, over 100. If you remember, divide by 100 means percent. So that's what we've got to learn, and that's the proportion. A fraction equal to a fraction is a direct proportion. So that's what we're going to use today. Now, the problem we have here is this is the same exact thing as using an equation, and I want to demonstrate that to you real quick before we begin. All right? So let's take that formula again, and we're going to manipulate it a little bit. So A over B equals that number over 100. Well, really, that number over 100 is a percent. So I'm going to change that immediately. And I'm going to say A over B is equal to percent. Now let's make it horizontal. So I'm going to multiply both sides by B. My B's, anything divided by itself, is 1. They cancel and reduce to 1. And I get A equals percent times base, or base times percent, however you want to say that, because multiplication order really doesn't matter. All right? So as we start to do our first problem, and I'll rewrite this problem. We'll do this problem twice, actually. We'll say, what is 9% of 86? And notice, if you did the solving by equations, this is the same problem. And it's set up exactly the same way, to where amount is percent times base. These guys are the same thing. It's a manipulation. So really, it's whatever you want to solve as. When you start doing your homework, please read your directions. I need you to do as the directions state. You need to be fairly proficient in both of these methods. Okay? So let's go ahead and take this problem that we just got done doing. 9% of 86. And let's go ahead and solve it using proportions. Give me another screen here. We'll rewrite it again. What is 9% of 86? Get that back up there a little bit. There we go. Of 86. But now we have to put that into this equation, right? So I'm going to write this equation. I won't write this every time. Amount over base is equal to the number, or percent number, over 100. Well, the percent number over 100 is the easiest thing to find. 100 will always be 100. The percent number is simply this number here, which is in front of the percent, because we've already written that guy down as 100. So we fill in 9. Now the problem is, which is the amount and which is the base? Well, if we go back one slide here, and I'm going to do that, we notice that the amount, through all of our problems here, that our amount is actually isolated by itself on the other side of the equal side. And in this case, it happens to be the left. It doesn't always have to be the left. Kind of depends on how the English rolls with that. So as I go through, we find out there's my equal sign. Let's put it in blue. This is my equal sign. What is my amount? So that's what I'm looking for, is my amount, which means my base, which should be multiplied by my percent. Of means to multiply. 86 is my base. And now I'm set up in a direct proportion, to which cross products works every time, and I get 100A is equal to 9 times 86, divide by 100, divide by 100, and my amount is actually equal to, and that number is 7 74/100. Here again, a very small proportion of 86, almost 10%. 10% would have been 8.6, so 7.6 is less than 8.6. And we have kind of an understanding horseshoes and hand grenades, proximity of where we should be. And yes, it's the same problem as the equation. So if you refer back to your equations, we should have gotten the same exact answer. So let's do the next problem we did when we had equations. The next problem was 3% of what is 18. All right, so we already know that we're over 100. And it's pretty easy to find that percent number sitting in front of my percent symbol, which is 3, which is my amount, which is my base. Well, this is the only thing. Now remember, in my last problem, that thing fell on the left. There's my equal sign is. 18 is set alone by itself. That would be my amount, which means not what I wanted. Let's erase that back out of there. That amount actually does have a number to it. It is 18. What now? 3% of what? Percent times base. My what is my n. And away we go with our cross products again. So 3n equals 1800. Yeah, so I multiplied this one this time. It's just easy. Divide by 3, divide by 3, and n equals 600. So 3% of a very, very large number got me 18. Okay, so 18 is not very much of but not very much of 600. 3% is not very much of 100%. Let's go to our next slide here. Keep up the pace. It's getting slow and old like I am. Our next problem is 52 is what percent of 1300? All right. Well, here again, this was our problem last time because it shells out an answer that's not exactly our answer. This case, it actually works out fairly nice. Here's my amount, so 52 over my base of 1300 is equal to my percent number over 100. Well, my percent number is the thing I don't know. So now I am solving for it. So cross products. Here again, 52 times 1 is pretty simple to solve, so I'm just going to multiply it. Divide by 1300, divide by 1300, and we can simplify that. Divide both top and bottom by 100, and we get 52 divided by 13, which works out a little bit better, but it's 4. Well, it's not exactly 4. 4 is the value for n, and 4 is actually divided by 100, which makes it 4%. Here again, it asked for percent. Give them what they're asking for. And of course, the last one, we had that one where I wanted my kids to go get their shoes. Find 80% of 240. And that last reference, you have no idea unless you would have done the section for solving using equations. Well, in this case, n, or find, is n equals. So isolated on the left side, in this case, of my equal sign is my amount. That's what I'm looking for. My base then would be 240 because 80 falls in front of my percent sign, or per 100. So direct cross products, my direct proportion here, and I get 80 times 240 divided by 100, divide by 100, and A is 192, just exactly like how we found it if you had previously watched the solving percent problems using equations. Here again, if I give you a test or a quiz, don't give you any directions on which form to use. Use whatever judgment you can to get the right problem as quickly as you possibly can. Right being ultimately first. But in the book, please pay attention to your sections. Do what the directions ask you to do.